There's an old saying that says, you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for many years. Fishing is a sport that has acquired the time of many different people across the state, including myself. It's a sport that doesn't really require that much skill, and almost anybody can do it. There is no strength or really any physical abilities that you have to have, unlike football or, say, basketball. Um, I've been fishing my entire life across the state of Texas. I fished from Galveston all the way to South Padre Island, catching numerous different species of fish. And today I'm going to talk to you all about the importance of fishing the Texas coast and what you need to know in order to have a successful trip whenever you go. So there's three things you need to take into consideration as you prepare for your trip, and that is selecting the right gear. The second thing would be to know the right times, and the third is the right locations to fish. Starting off with selecting the right gear, according to Will Palmer, he said the baits you use for different species, each species has different baits that you need to use. And according to Palmer, he says that fishing with spoons, shrimp, spinner baits, and live bait will guarantee you pretty much a catch, at least for the sea trout species. And then moving on to redfish, if you're trying to catch redfish, it's best to go in and use like a spinner bait or a spoon, something that kind of catches the light as it goes through the water. They're attracted to movement, and it kind of also puts like a little sound in the water, and they'll be able to hear that from a long ways away. Moving on to your rod, Will Palmer also says that it's best to go in and start off with a spinning rod combo, as you're not going to have any backlashes whenever you're starting off if you're a novice fisher. And as you progress and kind of get the hang of it, you can switch over to bait cast combos. And then, of course, you're going to need line for this rod combo. And it's best for someone who's looking for a game fish such as sea trout or redfish to start off with, say, like a 20-pound monofilament, or some people even like to use braid, as it's becoming a very popular type of fishing line, as it's stronger and more abrasion resistant compared to that of monofilament. Now that we've discussed the type of gear you need, let's move on to picking the best time to use this gear to ensure the best catch possible. A tool that you can use to go in and find probably the best time to fish would be lunar calendars. Fish, they go in and they're very in tune with the rising and setting of the sun, as well as the moon and the moon phase that we're currently in. Fish, they move in, according to Heath Hipple, he says that they move about 45 minutes before and after these 4 times during the day and into the night. So your best chance of catching a fish would be to try to kind of work your time of fishing around these times of day, and oftentimes the sun will rise and then the moon will set shortly after, so you'll probably have about a 90-minute window of best possible fishing times. And of course that varies throughout the month, as you have a full moon and a new moon, as fish tend to like those more than the other types of moon phases. Then moving on, you can also use tide charts. Tide charts will show you when the tides are coming in and when they're going out. This affects the fish as it pushes the bait fish in on the incoming tides and then takes them out as the tide goes out. And generally they'll fluctuate anywhere from half a foot to 1.5 feet, depending on the location of the Texas coast you're at. So basically this plays into the location, which we're going to talk about next. When selecting a location that you're wanting to fish, it's best to go in and take into consideration the lunar charts or lunar calendar and then the tide charts to kind of put those together and get a general idea of the best location. You want to look out for bait fish in the water. You'll see those with birds circling overhead as they're feeding on the bait, and obviously with bait that means you're going to have game fish there, which we're trying to catch. So basically, with the incoming tides, Charles Neville, he's a very well-known angler. He's with Fishing Magazine, and he says that it's best to go in and find like potholes and ledges within these times because that's where the fish concentrate on the incoming tides. And then when the tide comes out and it gets hotter, it's best to go in and find like a deeper channel or say like a ledge or even a reef to fish at. In conclusion, if you take into consider these three aspects of fishing, you'll guarantee an event-filled trip on the Texas coast, and it's often a very fun time. And just remember that God gave you eyes for a reason, so don't go blind casting. Use your eyes.